Hi, this is World Regions Geographies, Chapter 3, Part 1. So what we're going to do is describe the physical geography of the Russian Federation, Central Asia, and the Transcaucasus region, predict how climate change and environmental impacts of human activities may influence the region's future sustainability, explain how people have adapted to and modified the physical landscapes in this world region, describe how economic transitions in the region are playing out in post-socialist era, analyze the changing political trends in the region in terms of fragmentation and realignment, and summarize the cultural legacies and new developments in the region in terms of high revolutionary and popular forms of culture, and discuss and analyze the implications of democratic change in the region. So we're going to start with environment, society, and sustainability. So the first thing you notice when you look at Russia and the Transcaucasus region, it's this region here, Central Asia, Transcaucasus, and Russia, is it's vast. Not only is it vast, but most of the people live right in this area. They live west of the Ural Mountains. This mountain range right here is the dividing line between Asia and Europe. This area here is very sparsely populated. Much of this area, if you notice when you look at it, you see this huge coastline. But Russia actually has very few warm water ports. So any ports up in here are pretty much this region, all of this region are frozen during the winter. So there's a port there in St. Petersburg, down here on the Black Sea. There's freshwater ports, and probably there at Vladivostok is a free water port, warm water port in the winter. The borders are on Eastern Europe, right along there, the Arctic, all of this along there, and the Pacific Ocean. Southern borders are on the Middle East, through here, South Asia, through there, South and East Asia, across China, this region. Now, one of the things you notice, this region here, this is Arctic, but global warming could have a very positive effect on Russia, because if this frees up with ice during the good part of the year, that can open up new sea routes for transportation of goods this direction. 4 major climate zones. There's the arid region, semi-arid, continental, and mid-latitude, this area right through here, and then the polar region right here across the top. Adapting to warming continent and melting sea ice. This is the biggest changes probably coming in the next 20 or 30 years. Climate change could have a positive effects. Mild winters in the northern latitudes means longer growing seasons, which what that means is that Russia could expand its production of food crops, particularly wheat farther north and other crops in areas that are now growing or only suitable for growing wheat. So you could have quite a bit of different types of farming available, and increased water availability. And where this may come in is if global warming continues and the glaciers in the Himalayas melt, that means India and China and Southeast Asia will be without water for 3 to 6 months out of the year. We have very limited water availability, and that may put large populations on the move, and the most likely place they would go would be towards Siberia. And we're going to talk about how that's going to play in with the Russian birth rate, which is not good. Negative climate changes are melting of permafrost. And why this is real critical, if permafrost melts, it could release a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, which could speed up global warming. Heat waves. As you have temperatures rising, you have more heat waves, particularly in Central Asia and the arid and semi-arid areas. Increased forest fires. A lot of Russia, Siberia is mostly forested. If you have increased heat, you have increased potential for forest fires. And these are fires that could rage for quite long periods of time. Geopolitical implications of negative climate change is migration from China, India, and Southeast Asia into Siberia in search of water. I think there's some geopolitical implications for potential conflicts between those regions with wars fought over water, not oil. Physiological regions. This is the Russian plain. Now this is part of Europe. This green here, that's all part of Europe. The Ural Mountains here is the dividing line. Kind of goes through here and then down across here. This desert plateau here, that's Central Asia. This is the mountain rim, which flows around, separates China and separates the Middle East from Russia. And the Central Siberian Plateau, this region right here, okay? And then you have this region right here, the Western Siberian Plateau. And this region's, as you can see, there's a lot of rivers, but it's very swampy. There's a lot of water up in this region. So there's not a lot of agriculture that goes on there. Most of the agriculture is down here and over here in this area through here. Now, geological resources, risks, and water. The plains, they're very geologically stable. They're in the center of a continent. They're the agricultural heartland of the Soviet or of Russia, and it's one of the great grain-producing regions of the world. Russia's major rivers has many major rivers: the Volga, the Ural River, the Don. A lot of major rivers flow north-south in Russia. Marshy, poorly drained areas, lots of those, as you can see in this picture. This is probably in the Western Asian or Siberian plateau there. And oil and gas reserves. This region here will have a lot of oil and gas reserves. About some estimates are as high as 270 billion barrels of oil, and has at least 7% of the gas reserves, known gas reserves on the planet. The mountain region is the highest range. The highest range is the Caucasus Mountains, and those are kind of between the Black and the Caspian Sea, that region right through there. And then the Urals, they separate Asia from Europe. A lot of mineral wealth, iron ore, nickel, a lot of coal, all kinds of minerals in there. Industrial cities. The Soviets built their industrial cities near the raw materials. Since it was a planned economy, they could just build where they wanted to. So one of the drawbacks in the old Soviet system was they didn't really pay any attention to the environment. So consequently, there's lots of areas in the Soviet Union or in the former Soviet Union, that have incredibly ecological issues. The mountain rim area is a geologically instability. A lot of earthquakes, there's volcanoes. That whole region along the south is very susceptible. Central Asia. This geosyncline, synclines are important because if you're looking for oil, you want to find those folds. Synclines are folds in the Earth's crust. And so what this is a folded area, and that's where all the oil and gas reserves are. And this is a large part through Central Asia. This geosyncline, one of the largest on the planet. Geological resources, risk in water. The rivers, the Lena, the Ob, the Amur, seas and lakes like the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea. That's where Crimea is. Caspian Sea is the one that's a little farther inland. And Lake Baikal, which is the deepest freshwater lake on the planet. The Arctic region, what makes it interesting is, as you can see in the picture to the right here, these are two different photos of the Arctic, which there's no continent there, so it's just an ice sheet. So this Arctic ice sheet receding, and the potential is, and this is an issue for the Soviet Union, for Norway, for this is Canada right here, by the way, and this is Alaska, and that is Siberia right there. Well, Canada, the US, and Siberia, and I think Norway are involved in who's going to lay claim to the riches, oil, other minerals in this region, and who's going to control shipping. Because when this ice melts, the quickest way to ship goods will be up here and through there and back down into the Pacific. You can see it over here on this map. You come up here between Alaska. If this is ice free, you're straight across here, and boom, you're right down in to Europe or into North America. So it's going to be a way cheaper, and it's who's going to lay claim to it. You can already see some countries, this is a Russian flag, are putting markers down. And where it's important is because international law says that a country's boundaries, this is Russia here, extend out as far as the continental shelf. What they're finding is this continental shelf from here and from North America are extending almost clear into this Arctic region.